right, Colmatech family, it's Monday, and that means mandatory training.
No.
You shut the fuck. Before we get into what the hell this is, we need to do roll call. Walden 4.
Here.
Esta, Hira.
Here.
Grem.
Yee.
Serlan.
Present.
Mobes. Where the fuck is Mobes?
Fighting the good fight.
Rex. Rex Pyroth.
He might be going to making some contracts with some demon boys.
So when I say these things are mandatory, you know what? Next week's PowerPoint is going to be about what mandatory means. All right. So, getting into this week's amazing training mandated by the government, we had this presented by one of our interns, Helen. Has everyone met Helen?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
What do you know about Helen?
She's a kitten.
She is great.
Are both of those true?
Eh.
Wow, damn. Damn. You've got nothing but praise and support from our bodega cat, and you're going to hit her with a... No, Helen is excellent and very generous. In fact, she's provided us with this PowerPoint today, titled "Fish Are Dry," which I believe is the statement, thesis, and proponent, because apparently there was some disagreement in the workplace over the status of whether fish were wet or dry. So now we have to do this mandatory company meeting to tell you all exactly what is going on. Oh shit, the genie's here. I guess you can stay.
I don't really have a choice.
Yeah, it's true. Nobody wheel him out.
This is mandatory.
Alright, table of contents. Subjugation of the fish to human standards. Definition of being wet. Different ways of being wet. Thought experiment. Why can't I see this? Why can't I see this your way? But Helen, that bitch, still wet. And sources. Subjugation of the fish to human standards. We as self-proclaimed higher beings have been trying to answer this question through the biased and unbiased lens of the human experience. To us, being wet is a shift from our usual, the safety and comforts of our dryness. But to answer this question, we must do the radical. We must don the fins of the fish and look at this problem as they would. As fish, our base state of being is underwater, and by human standards wet. But we truly aren't wet. We simply exist unbothered by taxes. To take a fish out of water would make them wet. As they are no longer in their environment, we've had a monumental shift from moist to moist, not wet, to dry to moist, wet. So I think the summary here is that the delta of the fish being taken out of water is what actually makes them wet. Do we have any objections to this yet?
Objection, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Definition of being wet. To shift from a dry to an undry environment. One of you may ask this question mockingly.
But Helen.
No, both at the same time, please.
Keep going.
But Helen, how do we know being wet exists?
Well, can happiness exist without sorrow? Does light exist without the darkness? Life is about duality, kids. But sometimes it's not. That's just how it is. Any objections to this slide? No, moving on. Different ways of being wet. Physically wet.
Moisture is the essence of wetness.
Mentally wet. Emotionally. Theoretically. Philosophically. And spiritually. Thought experiment. Riddle me this, Batman. If SpongeBob goes into the Goo Lagoon, is he more wet? No, he's simply wet. And to be wet is to have an environment shift from dry to undry, also known as the wet moist, depending on the school of thought you subscribe to. So, can anyone find any holes in this thought experiment?
Yeah, isn't he wet the whole time? Whether he's in Goo Lagoon or not?
No, but he goes into an additional layer of water.
Yeah, so he was wet, and now he's still wet.
SpongeBob goes to the swimming pool.
He wet.
He wet.
Get
Alright,
under the water.
I can see this training isn't taking. There will be a quiz at the end. Why can't I see
Son of a-
your way? Helen is a highly empathetic creature.
Okay.
Alright.
Great.
Okay, next slide.
Did that kill it for you right there?
Oh, I was trying to psychically send her some damage. I look at our world through the eyes of a school of fish. We have no problem understanding the differences in societal views of seafaring, liquid living creatures and humanity. You're just not an empath, babe. Get on my level. And this bodega cat is fucking mocking us.
Yeah, she is.
But
Helen, that bitch still wet.
thank you. God, you guys can't take your fucking cues. If you still think fish are wet, you would be delighted to learn that they have mucus covering their bodies, physically separating the water from touching the beautiful, shimmering, dazzling scales. That just be Mother Nature. Shout here keeping the fish dry. Alright. I know I said I was pushing this training because it's federally mandated, but can we all agree that mucus is wet?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a viscous.
Alright.
This was my exact argument to her.
Uh-oh. This is falling apart. Sources. My source is that I made it the fuck up! I live in Florida. We're under sea level. Allocation.com. Fish mucus or slime composition functions. Fish tank master.
I'll make sure to cut this part out.
Next mandatory meeting next Monday, 7 o'clock. Any final comments?
Fish are wet.
Fish are wet.
Fish are definitely wet.
Yeah, fish are definitely wet.
All right, glad we settled that.